Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me again. I'm here with a couple of guests today. As you may know if you've looked at my previous content, I had done a video on dating in Singapore and I was very interested in a lot of the comments that came through. But the more I read them, the more I realised that I'm really not an authority on dating in Singapore because I don't date in Singapore, and I'm definitely out of that dating scene. Being a married man. So what I've done is I've asked my friend Amanda and Min, one of Amanda's friends, to come and join me and talk to us about their experiences with dating in Singapore from a girl's point of view, and then maybe give an opportunity for some boys to then come back at this and see what they think. So you got to have the fire to be able to defend yourselves.
Okay.
And be brutal so that they know what the problem is. So if you didn't see the video to start off with, it was all about how guys in Singapore are often difficult to date, and the reasons behind it. I don't want to say anything else to kind of steer the conversation in any other direction, but maybe we could just start off by introducing yourself, maybe what you do and your dating status. Would that be right?
Okay. So I'm Amanda. I'm an architectural designer.
Oh, okay.
And my dating status is I'm single.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm Min, so I'm currently an R&D designer. My dating status is I'm dating.
Okay.
I'm talking to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would, for those who are of an older generation or not so clued up with the lingo, how would you describe talking to people? What's that? What does that mean? Because I talk to people a lot, but that probably doesn't mean the same thing.
Right. Ready to mingle.
Okay.
Emotionally available. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. Amanda, why are you not in the position to date at the moment, or you don't want to date at the minute?
I'm not looking for any connection at the moment. Right now I just want to focus on my career and all my hobbies. So they probably took up quite a lot of my time already. So yeah, I'm not.
So no time at the moment to date. That's an interesting one. If the right guy came along, would you say no because you've got?
I'm not opposed to dating. I think I still go around and I meet people, and I'm very happy to meet people. But I think I'm just gonna let it run organically. Yeah.
Like the old days.
Like the old days. Yeah.
Min, so not so organically. You've been on some apps, right?
Yeah, I guess the reason why I decided to use the apps is because I don't intend to date people from my office, and it's hard to meet people organically now that it's either we work or we go home and we just mingle with our friends. Like, it's really hard. So for me, using the app is a platform for me just to meet people. Yeah.
What apps do you use?
Currently, I'm using Bumble.
Bumble. Okay, I don't know about any of these apps. I've heard
you don't have
people
to know.
talk about stuff, but I don't need to worry about them. And tell me why Bumble and not any other apps.
Previously, I was using Coffee Meets Bagel, but I prefer Bumble's interface.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's Coffee and who's Bagel?
Bagel. The female is the. Okay, wait, no. That's a good question because, like, if it's a female meeting female,
Is it Bagel and Bagel?
probably.
Right.
Yeah.
I can kind of understand the bagel, but I'm a bit lost on the coffee.
We might not need coffee.
Okay, cool. And so, are you finding that are you finding it easy to meet people through the app?
Yeah. Because the app gives sufficient filters for me as a user to, like, I just want to meet this kind of people, or I just want to meet this age group of people, or like people with certain height and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you can even take out the too tall or the too small. Okay. Which one do you take out, the too tall or the too small, or both?
I prefer guys who are like at least 170.
Okay.
At least.
For any particular reason? I guess you don't want to be crouching down to give him a kiss.
It's just a preference. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I found it interesting that you said that you use it as a platform to meet people because you don't want to meet people in the office. I guess in the old days, like when I met Millie at work, that was kind of a natural place to meet people.
Right.
There's definitely in the UK, there's places where you can go to meet people. Some people would meet out at the bars. There'll be social activities that you can do, friends of friends. Do you think that's harder to do here, either in Singapore or this point in history?
I think it's okay because for me, I'm in a male-dominated industry, so it's definitely very easy to meet guys. It's just personally, I don't wanna eat and wear shit. Yeah, you know. Yeah, so I just want to compartmentalize my personal and work life.
Yeah, I can understand that. Things can get tricky if it doesn't work out
exactly.
well. Okay. Amanda, you previously were saying that you've had a couple of more serious relationships. Where did you meet those guys?
I met them in school. So the first guy, I met him in JC.
Okay.
And second guy, I met him in uni, but I think only after we graduated, then we started talking.
Yeah.
So we started out as friends first, then we sort of rekindled later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since then, you said you haven't been on any apps or anything like that. You haven't felt the need to do that.
Yeah.
When the time comes for you where you feel like you're ready to get back out there and meet people, would you be considering apps, or you're looking for that organic connection as and when it happens?
Right now, I don't quite subscribe to the idea of online dating. I still think that meeting people physically for the first time is will garner a much better connection. I will understand them a bit better. Then I guess you have different personas when you are meeting someone physically as opposed to when someone is texting. Sorry. So I think that it's nice to get to know them physically first before you see the texting starts. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess like one of the things for me. So just to give you guys context, I've been married for 11 plus years now.
Wow.
And Millie and I, we were engaged for 11 months, dated for 11 months. So like we've almost been together like
11.
11. There you go. In your face, Shopee. There's an extra 11. No. 11. I've lost my train of thought because I got into the Shopee thing. So as someone who did the whole dating thing a long time ago, and really back then online dating was there, but it wasn't so much a thing, I would worry about people faking who they were, or even like the photos they put out there. Not just, scams is a very big thing in Singapore. I think dishonest people have realised that Singaporeans trust a lot because of what our culture is like here. And so I think there's a lot of scams because of that, but also people who like aren't who they say they are, right? People would, I don't know, get onto the app and say, oh, I'm really into skateboarding, for example, to make it sound like I was fun, but actually I just love reading all day. There's a lack of authenticity that you can have to be able to create a connection, and by creating that connection, the connection is not authentic, right? And I think that's what I would worry about online. Have you had any experiences with that, where people have turned out to not be what are you going to say, Amanda?
I think it's the same way you meet physically. They also might give off a different set of interests that they like, and after some time the connection sort of wanes, and then they become who they don't appear to be. So I think it applies for both physically and online.
And I guess for you, in those situations where you've known the guys for a while before you date, you get rid of all those bits, right?
Yeah, you sort of know them as a friend, and you know what they like and don't like, and you know their bad habits and the good ones. And you sort of based off your own interests, decide whether you want to pursue a romantic relationship with them.
Sure. Yeah, how much you can cope with their bad stuff. So online, have you had any like horror stories, any things that haven't gone very well?
No, but sorry, so back to the authenticity
Sure.
first, right? So I think for me, I would usually text the person for like at least 2 weeks to get a sense of what this person kind of is, and if he is. So yeah, I'll go for guys. I don't.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'll see how is he like and stuff, and before I eventually meet this person. And I think during the 2 weeks of texting, it's enough for me to tell if the person is weird, or is he serious about this, or is he just looking for something casual, blah blah blah. Yeah, so that's how I filter those people out before I meet them. Yeah.
Have you encountered guys who are quite dishonest about themselves?
Not that significant that I remember. Yeah.
Any horror stories from dating generally?
Yeah.
Can you share a couple of those?
Yeah.
Guys, listen up. It's gonna be good.
Okay, I start with something mild first. So I remember there was this person that I met through a friend, so he wasn't from the app. And we were texting for a while already before we met. When I met him, right, I don't know why he picked a pub which that there's like live band. So initially I didn't know there was live band, right? So we were talking like maybe half an hour into the dinner already. Then the live band started singing. I just like, I cannot hear you and I don't really want to shout. Then throughout the whole night I was just I decided to give up. I don't really want to have to be engaged in a conversation with him anymore. So to me, it's like, even though he was trying to like, talk to me and stuff, because I didn't want to shout, I just forget it. Like, in my mind, I was dead. Like, that's it for this day. So it wasn't a horror story, but it's a bad first
date. Okay. What would be an ideal first date for you first, and then Amanda next?
I think ideal first date would be to be with someone who has similar vibes, can have a great conversation over the food that we both like, and we will be talking like there's no tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying food, so it would be dinner?
Dinner.
Would there be an activity that you'd want to do, or just dinner?
First date don't have.
First date's dinner.
Yeah.
Okay. Safe, right?
Yeah. Safe.
You won't fall over on your rollerblades or something like that. Okay, I see. That's good. What about you, Amanda?
I never really thought about it. I guess just at a simple setting like a cafe would be ideal, and just chat over coffee.
So this is interesting that you've both talked about a situation where, for a guy, immediately it might be quite intense because you have to talk, right? Over dinner, over a cafe, you're having to be vulnerable straight away. Guys, like, typically like to do stuff. Like for us, we bond over sport, for example, or doing an activity. Even if we're having food, we bond over food. It's like meat and barbecue. This is very, very stereotypical, but it's like, I don't know, we would be bonding over talking about the meat that we're eating or the steak that we're having, whereas like a cafe or a nice dinner, I'm not dating, but I feel the pressure already for guys.
I see.
And one of my thoughts about guys finding it hard to date in Singapore perhaps was that sense of being quite career driven. The focus is on being able to provide for the one day family that they may have, and so to then be in a position where they have to talk about something that's not necessarily work or whatever might be more tricky. What might your thoughts be about that? And I could be wrong, like if the guys want to comment away and tell me that I'm talking crap, that's fine, but let's go with it for a moment.
I guess for me it makes sense to strike up a conversation first. If anything, we should talk first before we do anything else. and that would determine the vibe the guy gives off, and also how well we can connect on just a platonic level, or even like stranger to stranger basis. Then I don't think like the guy should also be the one directing the conversation. I think it should be a two-way thing.
Yeah.
When we meet up, I would have my questions for you, like basically what my interests are, and are you aligned with my interests, and vice versa. So, yeah, I think a conversation is still very important.
What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, same. So I think through conversations you can get to know kind of like the mindset of the other person. And for me, if I date, right, I want to go in a long-term relationship. So mindset is very important, and then how the person talk and present himself is also very important. It's not just there to fluff you, and not there just to impress you and stuff like that. So a conversation is pretty good. Yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised, but very encouraged at the same time. I think it's very wholesome that you want to have conversations. I think from me and my experience, Millie and I were like super good friends before we dated. Essentially, we knew that we got on really well, and so much so that our first date, you're gonna love this, our first date, we went to the cinema to watch a movie about rugby, a movie called Invictus. I love rugby, so it was good. And because I'd invited one of my friends along and asked him to bring his girlfriend, who was a friend of Millie, so I wasn't quite sure if it was a real date or not, whether it was just friends going to hang out or whether it was a date vibe. So I was like, if he comes and he brings his girlfriend and it's a date, we can make it about the couples, you know, and if it's not a date, then it can be about the guys and the girls, and it's all cool. But he forgot to ask his girlfriend, and so like the day of the date, I was like, are you ready? Have you spoken to Helena? Is she ready to come? And he's like, oh, she can't come, I forgot to ask her and she's busy now. So what do we do? I was panicking a little bit because I didn't know if it was a date or whether it was just a hangout or what. So
it wasn't official or anything.
It wasn't like, I want to date you, let's go out. But I knew it was like the two of us together, and it could be, I guess I was a bit nervous about getting it right or not. First date, potential first date, potential not. So the solution we came up with was that my friend Phil, who forgot to invite his girlfriend to come, would also then invite my mate Dave. So our first date was me, Phil, Dave and Millie.
Okay.
And we watched the movie, and then afterwards we went into the arcades and there was a shooting game, and she owned us all. She was like so good, and I thought, okay, this is it, this is the one.
Girl power.
Yeah, she can hold her own with my lad friends, then we're good to go. But yeah, we have a very good friendship, which was the basis of our relationship. And I guess I wasn't sure what the first date would be like, and I think maybe in my mind the first date, and maybe this is the movies that I've watched, you know, like over the last 10 years, the first date might be going rollerblading at East Coast Park or doing an activity or something like that. But I love that you've gone with conversation and heart connection, or people connection, I guess, which is really nice.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
How long have you guys like talked to each other, or how long were you guys best friends?
Oh,
Yeah.
I would say we were friends from October through till February. November, December, January, February. So only 4 months we were friends.
That's a good amount of time.
Yeah, we got to know each other with groups of other friends and that sort of thing. And then February we started to date, and then the following January we got engaged, and then that December we got married.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
Wow.
I'm
So
writing down like homework.
So the first activity really locked her in to like you.
first activity, I mean, there was a slight different, I guess there's a slightly different context for us perhaps
Okay.
that worked in our favour. I'd come out of a fairly long and intense relationship that ended kind of messily, and I was still young, like 26 I think, but for some reason I was just like, right, no one's ever going to love me, I'm done. And I'd started to even apply to be a foster parent in the UK, and had started that whole journey going, thinking that I don't know, it sounds really
At 26, you want to be a foster parent?
Yeah, I think I had a desire to care for kids. I was the line of work that I was in was teaching already, and at that time it was teaching. I was actually bringing social change through music education, something that the government had put in place that I was working on, and so I think I already had a heart for kids essentially, and so. I don't know, there was something going on in my heart that made me think that was something that I wanted to do, and then Millie kind of came out of nowhere, and we had it sounds terrible, but we had quite a serious conversation before we decided to actually date. Like, we'd been out for a couple of dates before, but to actually like be an exclusive couple, the conversation for me up front was like, I'm not up for messing around. Like, I don't want to go through everything that I've been through before. I would only get into this relationship if I saw that it had potential for future, and I didn't want to get into it if she didn't feel the same, basically. So it was quite a bold conversation to have, but I think I was at the point in myself where I was ready for that, and I was prepared to let go of a potential fun time so that I wouldn't have to go through hurt again, I think. But that conversation ended up really well, because she was in the same boat. It was like, no, I don't want to mess around either. And she was young, she's 3 years younger than me, so she would have been 23, and so that's quite young for her to say that she was ready to kind of settle down. And then about 4 months into the relationship, I remember thinking to myself, well, I guess I was still in that mindset. If it's not going to happen, I just need to stop instead of just carrying on down this road of it not being worth it and just ending up in hurt, essentially. So about 4 months in, I had a good think about where I felt we were at, and so I started saving for the ring at 4 months onwards.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got a happy end.
Yeah, it's worked out quite well.
Yeah.
So far.
You never know.
I would like to ask you both a potentially difficult question, which is that from a lot of conversations I've had with girls in Singapore who are friends of mine, they would say that Singaporean guys are horrible to date, largely.
Okay.
I would like, and obviously it's a big, broad sweep, because I know a lot of great Singaporean guys who have got girlfriends or married and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's not everyone, but there's obviously a reason why there seems to be a pattern that's coming up, and I'd like to get your opinion on it and ask you why you think that might be, whether you have experiences of Singaporean guys being horrible to date, or whether you feel like no, it's wrong, they're fine, this is why they're good, this is what makes Singaporean guys great to date. It's a big question, and I don't want you to feel the pressure of every guy in Singapore looking at you thinking, what are they going to say? And every girl in Singapore looking at you going, I wonder if they're right or they're wrong. This is just your opinion and your thoughts on this topic.
Okay, yeah, drink of water.
So far, I have been only meeting Singaporeans, but I also have friends who are overseas, so I'll just use that as comparison. So I realized that people who are from Singapore guys who are from overseas, what is different is that Singaporean guys, generally when you talk to them, it's usually about work. Like, they center their life around work. But for people that I meet outside of Singapore, life is so much more than just work. Like, we'll talk about how's your day, what do you do and stuff like that. I mean, not what do you do as in not what's your work, but what do you do today, like, go to the gym, things like that. So it's the little things that they focus on. And then for Singaporeans, they really, when you ask them how's your day, they literally just talk about work. So I think for me, there's the big comparison between guys who are from Singapore and outside from Singapore. Personally, I don't think like Singaporean guys are horrible to date. Yeah, because I guess I like Asian guys, or I like people I prefer people who have Asian values. So for me, that already kind of like, okay, I'm just really gonna go for Singaporeans, and then from there, and then I'll just slowly have my own sort of filters to like kind of know which kind of guy that I want to date from there on. Yeah, so I wouldn't say Singaporean guys are horrible to date. You just need to know what you want, what you prefer, and stuff like that, and you can suss out the good ones from the weeds and stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
It's interesting that you talked about Asian ideals and Western ideals and how that was already a moment of contention. Can you tell me a little bit about the difference between those two that you see?
I guess Asian values, or people who value Asian values, they are more family oriented, and it's a lot of like togetherness, sort of. And people who adopt the Western values generally that I perceive are more individualistic. And if I want to be in a relationship, I don't really want to be like two parties, very individualistic, come together and just like that. I prefer in the family style and stuff like that. Yeah, I prefer that kind. So generally, this is what I go for.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
I like that. And I'd agree with you actually. I think having grown up in the West, there's definitely an emphasis on family that we have here in Asia that we don't have in the West. It's not that it doesn't exist, it's just the emphasis is stronger here, for sure. Yeah, for sure. What about you, Amanda?
I think, this is a very tough question to answer. I don't want to be blaming the entire generation. But I think I agree with Zhaomin. When I date Singaporean guys, I've not dated any other guys or like outside of Singapore, and I think they are also mixed, Singaporean and Malaysian, so they're half, both of them. So I guess that there's a little slight subtle difference between the values that they are brought up with in Singapore and in Malaysia.
Right.
I can't really pinpoint that specific value, but I would say Malaysians are more of a whole body that as compared to Singaporeans, from my experience, and so the values that they hold are much stronger, and I guess that's also partially why I'm attracted to them in the first place. So I wouldn't say that they are Singaporeans per se. They're just like an overgeneralization. Are they trash? I would say after dating a few times and looking, there are some trashy qualities in Singaporean men. I would say first of all, maybe they are all looking for a wife. Right, they are brought up thinking that they need somebody to be of company to them, and I think that they are just looking for the sake of looking sometimes. And I think a lot of Singaporean men do prefer to settle also, and I see that quite often because there's hardly a very strong sense of friendship coming between two different genders most of the time. So whenever there's a guy and a girl, they're talking to each other, eventually, most of the time, of a high percentage, it would lead to a relationship.
Right.
And and if nothing bad goes on in their relationship, it would just proceed to probably engagement and to marriage, etc. So I would say they don't know what they're looking for. That could be one of the things. And if you are of a decent status, you're good looking, average looking, you have a stable income, and you have a stable family, there's nothing chaotic in the household. Generally, that's what they prefer, and they're just like, okay, sure, let's go.
That's really interesting.
So, but it could also be coming from the girl's perspective, but like I just want to find a stable guy, and
Yeah.
we are both stable for each other, and okay, let's get married.
Right.
Yeah. So I think for me personally, I would say that they don't really have an individual mindset coming into a relationship. They don't know what they are giving emotionally to the female, which is very important, I would say, as a female. And that would typically create an unbalanced relationship most of the time, because the guy is always talking about, like, as I agree, like work matters, the future, finances, you know, they are always ready to service the family. But to form like a very deep connection, I feel like sometimes they lack the emotional connection to do so.
Right.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that that's a trashy trait of Singaporean men, but that's what I have experienced.
Yeah.
Over like friendships and also relationship wise.
That is very. So about a few months ago, maybe 18 months ago, I went around the streets of Orchard Road and asked people what makes a Singaporean a Singaporean. And one of the things that came out a lot was that Singaporeans are very pragmatic.
Yeah.
And that pragmatism is almost seen in, well, you're kind of a good fit, you're stable, you got a job, done. Let's get married. Do you think that's a very Singaporean, do you think that's because of the Singaporean pragmatism of, you know, we've got to be efficient. We just got, you know, so it's just done. So there's no romance. It's just step 1, 2, and 3.
I think there are a lot
tick,
of
tick,
things. So I think we are just brought up in this society or system where like everyone is aiming for this like high quality of life, and in Singapore to get there, you need to have a good job, a good pay, and unfortunately, both of that would mean you have to be very good at what you do and stuff before you can feed yourself to reach that state of life.
Yeah.
So I think that is also why we are generally more focused on the work and stuff, because this is what pays us, this is what gives us the life that we want. And then on the other aspect, we are all using social media, and Singapore is so small. You will tend to compare. If you use social media, you tend to compare, like, oh, that person is living this life, that person is living that life, and you also want to get there, kind of subtly, maybe not all of it, but you just want to be there. And everybody, you'll be like, you start comparing what do they do, what do they not do, and in order to achieve this state of life. Yeah, so this state of life is kind of maybe being painted to us through social media or through, I don't know, somewhere. And because Singapore is so small, we just word travels very quickly, and we all like kind of agree, yeah, this is the best state of life.
Right.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this is how we have become so pragmatic.
Yeah, true.
Sadly also.
And I think some of the pragmatism in Singapore is maybe necessary for us to be able to keep operating at the way that at the level that we do. Such a small nation, we have a lot to bring to the table of the big game players globally, and I think that's a really positive thing. But I think it does come at a price. I think it does make things very difficult sometimes.
I'm more curious about what other aspects do you gather from this?
Sure. Okay. So some of the comments I've had about dating in Singapore from other girls are, okay, guys are horrible to say because they only talk about work. So something that you've already touched on. They only talk about work if they're able to hold a conversation. So some of the girls have said that they will go on a date, they've been able to text really, really well because they've met online, but actually to hold a face-to-face conversation, the guys crumble a little bit and don't know how to hold a conversation. And then there's some who interestingly have talked about how guys haven't been prepared to pay for a meal or pay for a coffee for a girl, and it's interesting that even in this day and age where there is a huge drive for equality, that there's still a desire for being looked after, which I really like, to be honest. Just personally, I think that's nice, and I do think it's good for a guy to do that, not because of any fairer sex chauvinism or anything like that, but just because it's nice. I think it's nice to look after someone like that. I know that there are lots of opinions about that sort of thing these days, and a lot of people disagree, but that's just where I'm at. I know that it works for me. I've got a wife who loves to be looked after and to be treated well, and I love doing that, so go figure, it's kind of fine, you know. So there's that element, and then unfortunately I've also had conversations where girls have talked about how guys seem to be after only one thing, and very, very quick to have what seems like a very wholesome conversation to be turned around into so you coming back to my place now or not, you know. And that is something that I guess makes me feel a bit uncomfortable as well, to hear that that's another layer of what's going on out there. So there you go, that's the answer to your question. What do you think of the things that I've just shared?
I think I come from the millennial generation. If I'm gonna split them into levels, I think predominantly now younger adults have that more of that culture. Guys looking for that one single thing, and I think hookups are very predominant nowadays. I hear a lot of that going on. Yeah. And I personally also am afraid of like going out the dating scene, because I don't want to be expecting guys like that also. That's why I want it to happen more organically.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that could also be one subtle like subconscious fear that I might have. Yeah. And for the guys paying for dates, well, my ideal first date is in a coffee shop, right? But then if you asked me out, I think it would be the courtesy of the guy to ask me out to pay for the meal or the drink.
At least to offer.
Yes, at least to offer. I don't mind splitting it. That, you know, it's fine. But at least have those manners. I think those are basic things. Yeah. And I'm quite surprised that they they appear to not have them, you know.
Yeah. What do you think, Min?
Oh, there's so much. So yeah, on going Dutch or not, I think it's just whoever who wants to. I mean, yeah, we are in an age where just whoever who wants to pay for the bill. And
honestly, it's awkward.
Yeah.
If I was dating now to offer, I wouldn't want the girl to turn around and just be like, do you not think I can cover my own bill?
Right.
Like, especially if it's gone well, you know, it's a bit awkward. But I think that, yeah, there could be an offer at least.
Yeah. So usually I will offer.
You would offer?
Yeah, unless the guy insists no, then I will just really let him.
Okay.
Because I guess that's when the guy wants to, you know, show that, yeah, I can pay for the bill. So
yeah.
I won't insist if he insists, of not splitting. And I think online dating isn't that bad. Just have, for me lah, at least I think of it as just a platform of meeting people, and then the rest is up to when you meet the person and then you see how it goes. So it can be a platform turned organic kind of relationship eventually, even though how you meet may not be organically. And knowing what you want, knowing what you want in a person or in a relationship will just help to ease this whole online dating process. Cause I think it's just easier that way. And because after you know what you want, you generally will be able to suss out people who are authentic or genuine and that kind of stuff, and you will just enjoy the process of being in a date as well, which sometimes is fun because you get to meet a lot of people from all kinds of backgrounds. So actually that's the fun part of dating, right? And then from there you get to do like a sampling thing where like you know what you don't want, you know what you want.
Okay, cool. Okay, I got one last question.
Okay.
Which might mix things up a little bit for you. Okay, so here's the question. It's the NS factor. Okay, you're at school you're all on a level playing field, then the guys go away 2 years. You are straight out working or studying further. They come out of NS and they're 2 years behind you. Does that play a factor in making it difficult to have relationships with guys, because the ones who you kind of grew up with are already like behind you in career and whatnot? Does that make things tricky?
I think I can say about this one because I dated a guy in JC, and after JC we continued dating. We went to NS. I think it takes work when he's totally not available most of the time.
Yeah.
I think that it's okay, in my opinion, that he's 2 years behind. I feel like guys catch up pretty fast.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, they pick up on things really fast. At least the guy that I dated.
Yeah.
So
I've heard some guys talk about how they feel like they have to catch up, and they come out of NS, and all of a sudden the girls that they were dating or hanging with before they went on NS are now dating guys who are 2 years, 3 years older than them, and there's this chasm of space where they're like, we're suddenly completely below all the girls. They're looking at these guys who are established, who are working, and we've just come out of army, and they have to catch up. Do you feel that as well, or do you think that's probably something that just the guys might feel like an inferiority complex they have coming out of army?
Yeah, I don't.
You don't see it that way?
Yeah, I don't see it that way.
That's good to know. Hopefully the guys watching this will be encouraged.
they should work with what they have, I feel.
Yeah.
Like they shouldn't be like, they shouldn't ever feel inferior to that, I think. And also it's just based on the girl's choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If it's not theirs to hold, then it's not theirs at all.
Yeah. Great. Thanks very much. It's been very insightful.
I hope it has been.
Yeah, and it's been surprising as well. I think there have been thoughts that you had and shared that I was not expecting, and like I said, and encouraged by how wholesome it is, and my mind's now considering the Western upbringing that I had versus the Asian values that you talked about, and how actually the sort of first dates that you're talking about and the guys that you'd like to date is a lot more aligned with those Asian values rather than the Western ones that I had growing up. And so I'm very encouraged by it, especially being a dad, right? I've got a 7-year-old. She, at some point in the next, maybe when she's in her 30s, when I let her, we'll bring a guy home, you know. But to know that they're in this environment actually feels good, and it's now making me question why I don't feel so good about what's happening in the West with the dating scene there and how things go there. And so I've definitely been encouraged by the conversation, so I'm very grateful for that, and grateful for your time. Thanks for coming all this way to have the chat with me.
Thanks for having us.
Please do comment, like, subscribe, all the things that people should do on YouTube, and let us know what you think of the conversations that we've had today. Thank you for watching all of it, if you watched all of it, and some of it if you watched some of it, and we will see you next time. And in the next few weeks I'm going to get some guys in to respond to this video. I'm going to get them to watch it, and then we'll have a chat, maybe on this very couch, and see what they say about dating in Singapore. So thanks very much. See you soon. Bye bye.